Chapter 3. The Birth of Lotus Slave. Minister Grandsire Merlin Ossoff, stationed on planet Chiron for a diplomatic mission, received the dreadful news: the assassination of Emperor Mirandus and Empress Melissa. A cold silence fell over him. His mind raced as he thought to himself, impossible. They had Doom Harris to protect them. How can this be? Moments later came the next message, even more devastating. Emperor Hugo Walker had been enthroned as the new ruler of the Interstellar Empire. Merlin's heart sank. How could this be? He thought again, disbelief tightening in his chest. He was in prison. I was to be the regent, training the young crown prince, Michael Walker, barely 4 years old, to one day succeed his father when he came of age. The chamber around him seemed to darken. The air turned heavy with foreboding. Merlin Ossoff, the immortal grandsire and wisest mind of the Walker dynasty, knew then something had gone terribly, irreversibly wrong in the heart of the empire. Now Merlin Ossoff's fear grew for the safety of the royal children of the slain Mirandus and Melissa. Michael Walker, who was 4 years old, the adopted son Jericho Nova, who was 3, Connor Walker, who was 2, Adam Walker, 1 year old, and Jack Walker, only a few months old, and he was right to be afraid for them. In the royal palace of Renosa, Emperor Hugo Walker contemplated the children's deaths. He wanted them eliminated, the last remnants of his slain predecessors. But his chief adviser, Commander Doom Harris, now his closest confidant, spoke firmly, cautioning him. Listen, my emperor, Doom said, his voice low and steady. Merlin will not forgive the killings of the children. Hugo's eyes narrowed. But the woe of Merlin, he said. He is bound by oath to be loyal to the throne, regardless of who sits upon it. Yes, your highness, Doom replied. But any human can crack when pushed too far. It is wiser to let them live. Send them to planet Vadler with Merlin Ossoff. There, they will be safe. Hugo paused, the tension in the throne room heavy and oppressive. Finally, he nodded. Yes, you are right, he said, a faint shadow of reluctance passing across his face. The bodies of Mirandus and Melissa were brought forth in ornate caskets, paraded through the streets of capital Ceylon. Citizens lined the avenues, staring in horror and disbelief at the blood-stained legacy of the fallen rulers. A week of mourning was declared. The empire draped in black banners, the air thick with grief and unease. In the palace, Emperor Hugo Walker prepared a grand speech commemorating the lives of Mirandus and Melissa, a speech that was by all measures cynical, calculated, and chilling. Citizens of Mantelosa, these are sad times. Yesterday we lost two great jewels of the empire, whose reign was marked by wisdom, justice, and prosperity. Mirandus and Melissa guided this realm with care and vision, shaping our empire into the shining jewel it is today. Their absence leaves a void, one we must remember as both a warning and a call to vigilance. Though we mourn them, let their legacy endure through our strength, our loyalty, and our unity. Let no one forget their deeds, for in honoring them, we honor the empire itself, unbroken, eternal, and everlasting. Followed by thunderous applause by the crowds below, looking at Emperor Hugo in the royal balcony. Merlin Ossoff Walker, having completed launch, travel, and re entry aboard his personal spaceship operated by the neutrals, was now hurtling furiously toward the royal palace on planet Renosa. The palace itself was a gigantic, luxurious marvel, perched atop a medium sized mountain overlooking the sprawling city below. Ceylon stretched around it, a striking fusion of medieval aesthetic and advanced technological features, where stone towers rose alongside sleek energy pylons and torch-lit courtyards blended seamlessly with neon-lit walkways. Fury and determination radiated from Merlin as he raced toward the heart of the empire, his mind consumed by the horrors he had just learned. He went into the palace and into the throne room, where all the members of the royal court sat and stood silently. As the grand doors opened, Merlin of Walker entered, walked into to the middle, and stopped. There they were. Emperor Hugo Walker sat upon the throne with his crown, and Commander Doom Harris stood slightly ahead and to the left of him. Merlin Ossoff, with rageful tears in his eyes, said, "You murdered Amanda. You murdered your own mother, Amelia. Now you murdered half-cousin Mirandus." "Shut up," screamed Hugo Walker. "This is not how you speak to the Emperor." "Emperor," said Merlin, "you deserve to rot in prison for life. You're not even worthy of being a servant. I want you to shut up." "Shut up," screamed Hugo Walker. "I am the oldest Walker now, successor to Mirandus. Uphold your legendary oath. Promise the vow. Absolute loyalty to the throne regardless of who sits upon it." Grandsire Merlin, now devastated, an old man but immortal, stood rethinking all his choices. Emperor Hugo Walker said, "I order you, as Emperor, the rightful holder of the throne, to bend the knee and serve." And Merlin, grudgingly, with tears, bent down and bowed. Commander Doom Harris said, "It is a quantum conspiracy of the vigilantes from planet Quantum, who are responsible for the tragic deaths of the former Emperor and Empress. They will be punished. If you challenge the imperial conclusion, you will be banished." But the kids," said Merlin Ossoff with a breaking voice. "The kids will be with you," said Hugo. "Do with them what you will. I don't care. I will marry and my kids will be the new rulers after me." Commander Doom Harris was already chief advisor. Now it was time for Emperor Hugo Walker to fulfill his other two promises. He granted Doom Harris control over 5 planets, essentially making Doom a king, sending the African guard knights to murder King Halindor, ruling those worlds, and mercilessly massacre his family, leaving nothing alive to challenge his authority, which terrified the remaining 30 kings and their royal families of the empire. Direct personal rule was established for Doom Harris, and the luxurious rewards promised to the top brass of the African Guard were delivered in full, reinforcing the Guard loyalty to Doom Harris. Hugo then turned his attention to planet Quantum. For the second time in history, the bone of Renosa was deployed, the orbital superweapon, bristling with 25 iron merzoplasma spikes. One spike launched, which obliterated the planet completely, erasing it from existence. 1 billion humans perished in a blinding flash, their cities, forests, and oceans reduced to nothingness. Commander Doom Harris watched with satisfaction and was pleased. Now his authority won't be challenged in the slightest. There would be no inconveniences for him. He is absolutely loyal to the Emperor now. Only 24 spikes remain, capable of eliminating and destroying 24 planets. 2 used, once during Gelder Wars and now, unprecedented act. Thus, Hugo's reign began with obliteration of a planet, annihilation of a people, eradication of dissent and purging of any anti-Walker element. It was a message of fear, a grim warning to the rest of the empire, challenged the Walker dynasty, and extinction would follow. 2 years passed, and Emperor Hugo Walker reached the age of 30. He took as his bride the young and beautiful Slavic European Spectrana from one of the great houses of Renosa and married her. Empress Spectrana Walker's parents, along with her sister Serena, moved into the palace, becoming esteemed members of the royal household. Over the next 10 years, Empress Spectrana bore 6 children: Crown Prince Ozark Mateo Walker, Lord Stryker Walker, Evan Walker, David Walker, Irina Walker, and Sarah Walker. Across the vastness of the Solomon Galaxy, once known as Andromeda, now renamed in honor of the ancient founder Solomon Voss, lies the dominion of the interstellar Mantalosa Empire. At its heart burns the Patricia system, the seat of imperial power and home to Renosa, the capital world and shining jewel of civilization. Upon Renosa towers Ceylon City, the throne world of the Walkers, whose rule extends to the farthest edges of the stars. Beyond Renosa lies Yarika, a distant frontier world of cold beauty and sparse population, birthplace of the Nordic queens Amanda and Emilia. And Chiron, the third wealthiest planet of the empire, inhabited by the Hispanic faithful who still cling to the ancient religion of Christianity. The intellectual planet Lampreia, known for its Jewish heritage and luminous culture, stands as one of the empire's centers of art and philosophy. Farther outward lies Quantum, the rebellious technological world whose defiance ended in annihilation beneath the terrible power of the bone of Renosa. Yet beyond the empire's reach exist the independent polities of the outer rim, seven realms of fragile autonomy. Among them are the Tellurian kingdom of Telluris, the Veltrix city-state, a rogue planet adrift without a sun, which is the Veltrix city-state, the proud Neovaris kingdom of Neovaris, the Zerathic Caldrion principality of Zeratha, the democratic Sinthara Republic, and the Elindor Vethar spaceship, a colossal cylindrical ring-world megastructure carrying 5 million souls at the farthest edge of mapped space. Hidden among these distant worlds is Vadler, a quiet and secluded planet chosen by Grandsire Merlin Ossoff as a sanctuary for the royal children of the slain Emperor Mirandus and Empress Melissa. A world of refuge beyond the site of tyranny, and still the most ancient relic of all drifts in legend. The lost Trexotrans station, the Ark of Solomon, the mythical vessel that once bore humanity from the ruins of Milky Way to its new home among the stars. 12 years have passed. Michael Walker, Jericho Nova, Connor Walker, Adam Walker, and Jack Walker are now 16, 15, 14, 13, and 12, respectively. Emperor Hugo Walker has married and fathered 6 infants. Crown Prince Ozark Walker is now 9 years old. On the distant Vadler planet, within the vast stone halls of the Grand Fort of Vadler, Merlin Ossoff raises the Mirandus line walkers, training them in virtue, wisdom, courage, and martial arts. Yet it is clear that Merlin alone cannot properly instruct all these young princes by himself. Each of them speaks, acts, and carries himself in his own distinct manner, unruly and bright with youth. From time to time, Merlin travels to Renosa to offer Emperor Hugo Walker whatever counsel he can, advise the Emperor requests but rarely heeds. Over these next 10 years, the quality of life and living standards of the interstellar empire have steadily declined, descending into greater corruption and moral decay. On the slum-like planet for the poor but luxurious for the rich, Gabonia, an enslaved prostitute named Anastasia, who is a servant grounder just like all the others, mysteriously found a baby appearing supernaturally in her closet after she prayed to Jesus Christ. He was born mysteriously to her, not in the womb, but when she was in her little mudroom in the closet, she heard the crying of a baby. When she opened it, she found the baby and named him Lotus. Anastasia had been in slavery since her birth on Gabonia and had been forced into prostitution since age 16. At age 25, a year ago, she could no longer bear the cruelty and sexual violence of wealthy male clients. She prayed to a tortured dead man on a cross named Jesus Christ, whom she knew of only from her earliest memories of her father. She cried out to Jesus to help her, but nothing came of her prayer. She grew increasingly desperate until she found the baby in her closet. Terrified of what the slave masters would do if they found out, she raised the baby in secret with the help of her friend Melinda, a friend who was also a victim of human sex trafficking and prostitutions in the brothels of Gabonia. Anastasia was furious with Jesus, blaming him for her continued suffering after prayer, and felt that things had worsened since she had to take care for the baby. Despite this, she cared for Lotus with love, marveling at the supernatural circumstances of his arrival. The baby was Nordic in appearance, and she named him Lotus because the name signifies purity, rebirth, and hope. As Lotus grew up with Melinda and Anastasia, they used the money they earned from forced prostitution to to help him as much as possible, living in bars far from the brothels. Anastasia wanted him to have a better life and held on to hope for his future. However, as Lotus approached the age of 10, Melinda and Anastasia noticed that something was wrong. He couldn't speak properly. He had difficult making eye contact and struggled with thinking and basic motor skills, which saddened Anastasia even more. Despite these challenges, she was determined to get him out of Gabonia, a true hell. Rape, sexual violence, sexual slavery, prostitution, and brothels are the brutal and cruel horrors of the empire, festering and growing worse with every year passing. A relentless, gnawing depravity that has long haunted the realm, laying bare the corruption and sin of the ruling elite under a merciless, unblinkable spotlight. A 10-year-old boy named Lotus, born mysteriously to the enslaved European prostitute Anastasia, was raised with the help of Melinda. Lotus, who is clearly autistic, has low intelligence, and would always be childlike. You stand on a throne of ruin, bathed in shadow and spite. Tell me, dark power, why is this relentless, harsh, cruel, merciless night? You sow the seeds of suffering in the silence and the endless noise. Why this brutal, heartless torment? Why the hunger to destroy? Why this sin? The taste of your ruthlessness is a venom on the tongue. But listen closely to the anthem of the wronged, a song now sung. Your barbaric, gruesome empire, built on fear and bloody lies. We swear on the scattered ashes, our vengeance will now rise. The day of the reckoning is dawning, and no shadows can save you. For every savage stroke you dealt, we shall dance upon your grave. Curse you, planet Gabonia. Gabonia, the Mantelosian Empire's elite's violent and sexual fantasy world, a planet built entirely for indulgence. It is not an industrial hub, not a center of governance or science, but a colossal playground where the Empire's elite come to live without consequence. From orbit, the planet glows red, a burning sphere of sand and stone cut through by narrow belts of city lights that gleam like circuitry. Only a handful of regions are populated. The rest is empty wasteland, a sea of dust and rock stretching endlessly beneath a copper sky. Yet beneath the mesmerizing glow lies a brutal truth. Gabonia is a world divided cleanly between those who own pleasure and those who serve it. For the empire's upper class, Gabonia is called the stage. Everything that happens here exists to satisfy the desires. The planet operates as a controlled environment, designed to stimulate danger, power, romance, and war, all for the entertainment of the visiting rich. Every district offers a different kind of experience: combat arenas, social dramas, dueling courts. The guests are called patrons, and they treat the planet like a living story written for them. The population that sustains this world, the servants, the grounders, are its true inhabitants. They are all real people born into debt, bought from poorer colonies, or descended from those who were sent here generations ago. They build and maintain the empire's playgrounds, serving in silence, repairing the damage after every destructive spectacle, rebuilding what the patrons destroy. For them, Gabonia is not a paradise but a furnace of humiliation, a red desert where every luxury they create exists only for others. The culture of Gabonia revolves around performance and hierarchy. Everything is spectacle. In the few population centers, the streets overflow with sound and color when the patrons arrive and fall silent when they depart. Nothing is permanent except the divide between patron and grounder. Each major city is ruled by a host council, a coalition of administrators, engineers, and overseers, ensuring that the fantasies of the powerful unfold flawlessly. They plan season cycles, orchestrated events, and conflicts designed to entertain. Behind the scene, tens of thousands of grounders labor endlessly to make these illusions real. Soldiers ordered to fight, performers forced to act, servants compelled to endure. To live here is to exist within someone else's script. The ruling philosophy of Gabonia is brutally simple. The patrons must never feel limits. Every law, every moral restriction, every restraint is suspended at the gates. They can command, conquer, destroy, or indulge without consequence. The servant grounders' lives are expendable. Every wound, every fall, every cry, every desperate moment becomes part of the experience. The empire calls it controlled chaos, a service that keeps its elite citizens satisfied and docile, their darkest impulses contained on one distant world. Yet beneath the glamour, Gabonia runs on fear and exhaustion. The grounders live in the shadows of the entertainment zones, in sun-baked settlements and underground complexes that stretch for kilometers beneath the red sand. They sleep in shifts, work without relief, and are constantly monitored by the host councils. For all its cruelty, Gabonia is perfectly ordered. The councils manage every function of the planet: water extraction, transport, air recycling, power flow with precise efficiency. Nothing is wasted. Every punishment becomes spectacle. The empire keeps Gabonia alive because it works. Every sin, every hunger, every thirst for dominance finds its outlet here instead of destabilizing the rest of the Mantelosan system. Gabonia is the pressure valve of civilization. The few outsiders who have seen both sides of the planet describe it as breathtaking and unbearable at once. From orbit, it gleams like a red jewel wrapped in light. Up close, the air smells of metal and sweat, and the cities hum with constant strain. The laughter of the rich echoes above the grinding of machines and the quiet labor of thousands buried beneath the sand. In official records, Gabonia is classified as a leisure world. The empire calls it a controlled environment for psychosocial release. Just like it is called the pressure valve of civilization for sex and violence, it is a controlled environment for psychosocial release, a masterpiece of urban design and economic balance. But those who live there, the workers, the grounders, the servants, the ones who see the blood dry on the dunes, call it something else: the cage of light. They say it because everything here shines: the towers, the palaces, even the desert itself at sunset. Yet nothing within that light is ever free. And so Gabonia endures, vast and silent, the empire's cruelest paradise, a planet built for fantasy, powered by human suffering, maintained by endless obedience, a world where pleasure and pain are traded like currency. A few months passed. Melinda came to Anastasia and said, "Give me Lotus. This is the only chance, the only opportunity." "What?" Anastasia replied, bewildered. "I have slept with my client, Kylo Voras, 32 times, for free," Melinda said. Anastasia gasped. "Yes," Melinda confirmed. "I told him I would sleep with him for free if he grants a favor in return. He will help. I will ask him to send Lotus away to a better planet, where he can live the life he deserves. I know he is autistic, but this is not the place for him. You have to let him go." And so, Anastasia, torn by deep sadness yet brimming with hope for her 10-year-old son, Lotus, kissed him gently on the forehead, hugged him tightly, and whispered, "Remember, Lotus, I love you more than anything in the universe. I love you, my child. I will always cherish you. Have a good life." "Yes, mother," Lotus replied softly. Melinda took him to the smaller space launch area. Kylo Voras, her client, was already waiting. He saw her approach with the boy and asked sharply, "What is this?" "You told me you would fulfill a favor," Melinda said, her voice trembling. "A favor for me?" "This is dangerous, ridiculous. A child," Kylo said, incredulous. "Please," Melinda begged, falling to her knees, "please take him away and give him a decent standard of life, a life with dignity. He does not deserve to be a slave. Please. Look at him. Look at this child." Kylo's eyes narrowed. "You prostitutes are clever, aren't you? This is a favor you ask instead of payment from me? Huh? I will pay you in full instead of this." Melinda's desperation only grew. She fell completely at his feet. "Please, have some mercy. Please do this. I'm begging you." "I think I made myself clear," Kylo replied coldly. "I will sleep with you for free 10 more times," Melinda offered. her voice quivering. 20 more, Kylo said, and no payment will you receive for it. Okay, fine, fine, Melinda gasped, defeated but resolute. Kylo Voras took the child into his ship, and they lifted off into the atmosphere, into the infinite expanse of space. It was Lotus's first time leaving a planet, his wide eyes fixed on the stars. Kylo's ship was headed to Wadler. Chapter 3 The Birth of Lotus Slave is over. The video is over. Thank you.